Yes, I do. In fact, even before that banquet, Boss already knew of the connection between Synth and the serial disappearances case. But what drove all the tensions to the boiling point was the revelation that you, Demoiselle, had been selected as the next target to disappear.
Und damit Heyhoo und willkommen zu einer weiteren Folge von Genshin Impact, Buch 5, Hydro. Ja, scheint so, als wäre sie die nächste gewesen, aber was ist dann daraus geworden?
What?
Schock.
Boss also didn't tell you that he had been diagnosed with a rare illness. The doctors told him that he had no more than 5 years left to live. And the serial disappearances case caused him great anxiety. 5 years was nowhere near enough time to resolve this long-standing conflict. But once he passed away, all the danger would pass on to you. Knowing all of this, he decided to use one final intimidation tactic before his death. He claimed to have already gotten his hands on some key incriminating evidence for the other side, and even told some members of Spina di Rosula about the details. But as long as you remained safe, he would not share the evidence with the public. If something were to happen to you, then he and all those he told would immediately expose all they knew about Synth and the disappeared victims.
Right, so nobody would be able to get off scot-free.
As we've seen, Boss's tactic has worked. Even though Boss has been gone for a long time, the other side has not tried to take Demoiselle's life.
No, I don't believe it. He never appeared to look sick to me.
No father wants their daughter to see them weak and haggard, especially someone as proud as Boss. To him, dying in a duel and suffering lasting dishonor as the unfaithful was still far preferable than losing face in front of his daughter.
So he chose to die in silence, so that he could protect me.
Ja, war immerhin ein Vater, ne?
I'm afraid you're not understanding this correctly, Demoiselle. What Boss wanted to hand to you was not a parasol, but a sword. If Boss's spirit could hear you telling me that you want to find the answer for the sake of everyone involved, I'm sure he'd be extremely proud.
That fool. Couldn't he have just given it to me straight? No. He might have set up everything precisely because he never thought I'd be able to understand him. Is that the amount of confidence he had in me? And what if I was never able to make it to where I am now?
Wollte dir die Wahl lassen.
Yeah. I suppose that's true. With the way he'd set things up, if I had wanted, I could have just lived out my life without a care in the world. But thankfully, he rarely talked to me about complex matters, and thus understood little of me as a person. In this case, he really didn't need to give me an easy way out. Melus, what was the key evidence that he shared with you?
It's the location where Synth is produced. Essentially, it's the enemy's headquarters. When he was threatening the enemy, Boss didn't share the specifics of the incriminating evidence he found. But if you want to use it against the enemy, you'll still have to take several things into consideration.
Why? If we know where the place is, can't we just go storming in?
You mustn't forget that we're fighting against a mysterious and dangerous organization that's been in operation for decades. There's no telling what might be lying in wait at their headquarters. We also have no idea what kind of evidence we may be able to find inside, nor what people we may be able to capture. But a single visit to their headquarters will be tantamount to a formal declaration of war.
Ja, das denke ich auch.
The worst case would be that we leave empty-handed, but also open ourselves up to full retaliation.
Then, in that case, why not
Well, you saw one of them dissolve during Mr. Lyneys case. We have no idea just how thoroughly they may have been infiltrated.
Oh, stimmt.
That's true. Seems my father really had no choice. But things are different now. It should be a lot easier to prove the other side's guilt, now that we've connected Synth with the disappearances case.
You sound like you've put a lot of thought into this, Melus.
I am the butler, after all. I live but to serve the boss and Demoiselle's will. I've always been willing to take on any kind of risk for your sake. But considering my relative lack of ability, I've spent my time keeping secrets, performing basic investigations, and waiting for the right time to come.
Thank you for all of that, Melus. Have you discovered anything new in the past few years?
Let me think. One conclusion I came to was that the enemy must be quite familiar with Spina di Rosula, or at least have an informant planted here. When I announced orders to the organization's members on Demoiselle's behalf, I used to deliberately keep a few people in the dark and observe the reactions of the synth vendors. If the vendors didn't change their plans, then the individuals informed of our orders must be innocent. If the vendors packed up and fled, however, then someone must have given them the news. After several rounds of testing and investigative tracing, I've narrowed the suspect list down to 3 people.
Alter, krass.
The first is Florent, Spina di Rosula's senior advisor.
Jemand mit einem Bart. Boah, hatten wir schon viele Charaktere mit Bärte? Ich glaub nicht, oder?
Huh? Florent?
Florent.
Yes, surprising, isn't it? He was one of the people Boss trusted the most, which also means that he was someone who understood Boss really well. Thanks to his position within Boss's innermost circle, he always knew our upcoming plans and could thus avoid capture this whole time. There's someone else like him too. Marcel, the head of Confrérie of Cabrières.
Oh, Confrère de Cabrières, genau.
Uncle Marcel.
Oh. Was ist diese Confrérie? Ja, endlich fragst du mal. Ich habe keine Ahnung.
It's a guild in Poisson. Boss helped it to grow to its current size and prominence.
Ah, eine Händlergilde.
In the beginning, they were only reselling some daily goods, but now they're one of the richest guilds around with a lot of business connections in the city.
So, they're like a sister organization of Spina di Rosula?
Yes, you can say that. When we were fighting against the synth dealers, they provided us with plenty of support. It's a bit difficult to imagine someone using their own money to hunt down themselves.
The final suspect is Thierry, the man responsible for coordinating information between Spina di Rosula and the guards. Although the guards mostly leave us to our own devices, there are still many activities we have to report to the local authorities. Since Thierry is always in the know about our current activities, he could theoretically always plan one step ahead.
I see. These are all people who I communicate with quite regularly. To think that the enemy we've been fighting against has been right next to me all along, among those I trust the most. It's...
If you want to investigate them, please take every precaution to not alert the quarry. Judging from our experience, the enemy is extremely cautious.
Of course. And thank you, Melus.
You're too kind, my lady. I'm just doing my duty. And before I forget, proving Boss's innocence would also mean clearing him of blame in Jacques' death. After that incident, Jacques' wife and daughter were taken into the Spina's care. They still live in Poisson today. If it might help, you could also pay them a visit. I can make the necessary arrangements.
Aw, thank you so much, Melus. You really are the best.
A new case awaits, my dear partner.
Du kannst auf mich zählen.
I hope we can work together to uncover the truth and end this case once and for all.
Protokoll von Callas Fall. In einer regnerischen Nacht vor 3 Jahren hörten alle Anwesenden des Banketts 2 Schüsse von außerhalb des Anwesens. Als sie am Ort des Geschehens ankamen, hielt Callas eine Waffe in der Hand und Jacques lag erschossen auf dem Boden. Den damaligen Ermittlungsergebnissen zufolge war eine Flucht für andere nach Begehung des Verbrechens unmöglich, weshalb Callas in dem Fall als Mörder identifiziert wurde. Aber das wird auch einer von diesen Fällen. Das heißt, wir machen das. Yay, yay, yay. Das waren 10 Minuten, das heißt, wir gehen nochmal darüber. Besuchen wir die Familie von diesem Jacques, war das, gell? Wir haben ja 3 Hauptverdächtige. Marcel, Thierry und ich habe den anderen Namen vergessen.
It is settled then. Please excuse me and enjoy your conversation at your leisure.
Florent war der Erste. Florent, Marcel und Thierry oder sowas. Thierry, keine Ahnung.
Thank you for arranging everything for us, Melus.
Excuse me, miss. Do you need anything from us?
Das ist doch ein neues Design, oder? Ich schaue gerade auf die Gesichter so, um zu gucken, ob das irgendwie einfach wieder neu verwendete mit neuen, einfach nur Farbänderungen und sowas sind. Aber das wirkt neu. Das jetzt nicht unbedingt, aber das auf jeden Fall. Adele! Sing mal was.
Hey, Navia's all quiet. This isn't like her at all.
Das sieht auch voll cool aus. Stören wir sie besser nicht.
I'm sorry that I only came to visit after all this time.
If it's about that, there's no need to apologize. After my husband died, Spina di Rosula sent us a lot of mora and support. I understood your guilt and apology to be genuine.
But aren't all of those things nothing compared to the loss of Jacques? I can understand the kind of pain that comes with losing a father so needlessly.
You don't understand at all.
Oh.
I didn't know how to face you, because I didn't know what I could possibly bring as a consolation gift. I know only the full truth could bring closure to you.
I'm sorry. I appreciate the sentiment, but you don't have to carry all that guilt. On the matter regarding my husband, my daughter and I have more or less found our answer already.
Would you mind sharing it with me? I really can't believe that my father could ever bring himself to shoot Jacques.
I always knew that my husband's money was earned through others' suffering. He told me countless times that if he could turn back the clock, he would never go into the synth business again. He had many regrets, and felt that he took the idea of providing for his family too literally. For the longest time, he thought Mora was everything. So when Mr. Callas came to him with a proposal, he accepted it almost immediately. He tried to be as careful as he could, but even so, he was still found out by the higher-ups.
They found out about his betrayal?
Papa didn't say that exactly, but Papa did tell me that I should never be ungrateful.
Before he left that day, he told me that he had no choice. It was only later that I realized it was his final farewell to the two of us.
Soll es etwa heißen, dass jemand was? Wie heißt das? Jemand Jacques angewiesen hat, Herrn Callas zu ermorden. Das S wird nicht ausgesprochen. Sorry.
I don't know that for sure, but you could say that's the conclusion I eventually came to. Which is why I'm the one who should feel guilty. Callas had always taken great care of us, both when he was still alive and after he passed away. Even if he fired the shot that killed my husband, it was likely in self-defense. It is impossible for me to hate him for what he had done.
But Mama, why is Papa still the bad guy if he did the right thing? Papa always wanted to be a good man, so why did he have to do a bad thing in the end?
Well, things aren't always as they seem. You still feel like your papa was a good man, right?
Yeah. Papa was a really good man.
Then you should hold on to that. If a good man had to do a bad thing, then he must have had his reasons. Regardless of whether he left you a parasol or a sword. He must have done so to give you a better life.
Oh.
Thank you for everything you've told me. I will definitely find the truth. The current state of things is not something I'm willing to just sit back and accept.
Thank you. I'm very grateful to hear this from you. Even though your personality is quite different from your father's, your determination when you speak is really similar.
You really think so? That's the first time anyone said that to me.
Zeugenaussage von Jacques' Familie. Jacques' Familie behauptet, er sei angewiesen worden, Callas zu töten und habe dadurch großes Leid erlitten. Könnte es sein, dass Callas damals sich selbst schützen wollte? Oder gibt es andere Gründe für sein Handeln?
There are leaves around.
Sprich mit
Are you
Florent.
okay, Navia?
I'm fine. Don't worry. Let's investigate the 3 suspects next.
In der nächsten...
Florent should be nearby, and we should be able to find Thierry and Uncle Marcel in the city. I'll get myself together on the way, so please don't worry.
Ist okay. Was ich sagen wollte ist, in der nächsten Folge reden wir mit den 3 Hauptverdächtigen. Ich hoffe, ihr hattet viel Spaß beim Zusehen und bis zum nächsten Mal. Tüdelü.